Alright, so let's start to model out our unsorted list. So right here you can see we have a constructor. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And make sure that when you're creating your CPP class files that you look at the naming. It looks like I kind of messed it up. But anyway, so let's go ahead and start defining everything. So the first thing I'm going to do is write out my constructor. So I'm going to go ahead and do unsorted. And actually, it looks like we forgot to include our header. So pound include unsorted list dot h, and then let's go ahead and I'm just going to copy this to save time. So we're going to access our constructor that you can remember here, and then we're going to go ahead and define that. So I'm going to start off by, right from the get-go, notice that we have length here. I'm going to make that equal to 0, and then the current position is equal to -1. Now you might be wondering, like, okay, well, where are you getting these? You didn't define them inside of this file. Well, remember, we're accessing our header file here. And inside of this header file, we have a few private variables. One is called length and one is called current position. Now the reason why I'm going with -1 here is, you'll see it more later, we want to go the entirety of our list -1. And so what that does is, if we're looking for, imagine the 49th position. Remember, we're starting at an index of 0. And so we go all the way to 50. We want to go back to that 49th position because it's assuming that we're starting at 1. So if we want to go back to the index of 0 and we're starting at 1, -1 will bring us back to 0 as well. You'll see this when we actually write everything out. So let's go down here, and the next thing I'm going to do is empty. So let's just copy this, start creating another function, is empty. I'm going to grab this guy from here, paste that. Alright, let's define this guy. So we have an unsorted list. Sorry, this goes actually here. There we go. Is empty. There we go. Okay. So what we want to do is, if the length of our list is the same as 0, that means our list is empty. We have nothing in there. So how do we kind of define, like, remember we have a Boolean variable here, so we have to have a return. So all I'm going to do is return true. Again, because if our length of our list is 0, then we're true. Else, all we have to do is just return false. Easy enough. I'll just go ahead and type out return false. Alright, let's save that. Let's go to our next one. And what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and copy all these guys. And I'm going to add a few more. So let's go ahead and paste this. I'm going to go ahead and copy this, because remember, we're looking at a Boolean here. So how do we check if it's full? Well, believe it or not, it's very similar to our is empty here, right? So let's go ahead and delete this. Well, let's think about this for a second, right? If we go back into our list, how do we know that we hit the end of our list? Well, if the length of our list is only 50, right? So what we can do is we can just say if length, right? We know it's empty if it's 0, but we know that it's full if we're at the length of our list. So let's copy this, and I'm just going to replace 0 here with list length. And we know, again, if it's the same as the length of our list, that means 50. We're going to return true. Otherwise, we're going to return false. That means our list is not full. All right, so let's take a quick look. And I'm going to kind of speed this up a little bit. So we're not returning anything with void here, right? So I'm going to copy this, paste this down here, and I'm going to drop void here. Let's make sure that we have our U in there for unsorted list. And I'm going to copy reset list from here. And what's nice about reset list is this. You're not resetting the list to 0. That'd be pretty easy. We would just set the list to 0. What we're doing is we're actually going back one spot, right? So what we can do is we can set the current position, right, equal to -1 here, so that we're going back a position if we need to reset. And then the last one is length is an integer. So I'm going to copy this guy right here. And all we're going to do is return whatever the current length is of our list. So if we want to know what the length is, all we have to do is just return length, right? Because we're constantly updating or decreasing. So if we want to know what the length of our list is, let's save this. And then let's look at this last one before we end this video and we expand that a little bit. So what I'm going to do is in unsorted list, right? We're passing in the item, right? So how do we, from what we know already about searching, how do we search through our list to find that item? Well, we can use a for loop, right? And we can start off at 0. So we're going to say, okay, integer I equals 0. And what we want to say is I less than the length of our list. If it is, we're going to increment I by 1. And then we're going to check. Okay, so what are we going to check here? All right, so if the data, and you might be like, wait, where did data come from? Well, if you remember before, if we look at our list here, we have data. We created a private array that's of type float called data, and it currently holds 50 items, right? You can see if I hold over that, it tells us we have a constant integer that's of 50 elements. So if data, the item listed, so it could be 0 through 50 as we're listening through, if that item